Okay, guys, welcome back. Glad to have you back in the class. If you're in a room, make sure the doors are closed, your cell phones are on silent, your TVs are off, put your chairs in the upright position, sit back and relax for a nice, wonderful class again. Let's talk a little bit of what we did last time in our session for all our virtual listeners and our listeners now in the class. Last time we had class, we discussed the traits of community of inquiry and each presence, how it brings specific qualities to an online classroom. We talked about the social presence, the cognitive presence, and the teaching presence. Each of those allow the student to have a meaningful educational experience in an online classroom exactly the same way they do in a face-to-face classroom. For today's lesson, our learning objectives are as follows. We're going to discuss how faculty and administrators feel about online education. We're going to determine if online education is effective. We're also going to discuss how blended learning can help bridge the gap between face-to-face education and online education. And lastly, we're going to discuss how does e-learning affect education at every level. Before we get started, though, I know all of you have had now an online class in your personal experience, and you had a face-to-face class throughout your life. Can you give me 2 positives and 2 negative experiences in the chat box below, or if you want to hop on the mic, of both your online classes experience and face-to-face experience? I'll leave this to you now.
I will go ahead and talk about an online experience. I've taken many online courses, and I think the most positive experiences I've had are people who have really not just given information to read, but they've helped others connect within that class, provided group work, or they've maybe had many type of lessons in an online course. And by having those many lessons, like we would all come together, say in an evening online, that helped pull us all together so we felt that we were part of a real class, not just out at our computers, someplace in the state or another state. Face-to-face classes. The face-to-face class, one that I had, which was really awesome, it was at Wright State. It was through the School of Education, and I still remember this guy several decades later. But as he talked, as he lectured, he actually walked around the room back and forth. He drew your attention to him, but he would also give stories, and then he would pull people into those stories in the classroom, and that was so awesome. And I think the worst face-to-face was being in large lecture halls, being lectured at. But even some of those classes were very good because of the interesting content. So that was my experience.
Great job, Yolanda. James?
Yeah, I can go in here, Drew. I did a couple of online classes that were one of these MOOCs, massively online. And one thing I appreciated was that I could. This is completely online. There was no blended or although there were chat rooms. Those things that like Yolanda I didn't take advantage of. I just listened to the lectures, did the tests, and so forth. It was a statistics class, which I was pretty comfortable with anyway. But I appreciated that I could do it anytime I wanted to. I could, look at the lectures, and in fact, I could, since they were kind of YouTube-like, I could speed them up. So I could run it at 1.5 times the speed. So a 30-minute lecture took me 20 minutes, and I could sort of zip through it fast if I knew the stuff, and I could stop it if I had to go back and listen again. So it gave me that flexibility of essentially making sure I understood it before I went on to the next section. So that was, I don't know if I come with 2, but that was a very positive aspect. The other class I took was a writing class, and I was interested to see how they were going to teach writing online, and it was really very good because the instructor gave some basic concepts about how to write a good sentence, but then showed how she would have edited something that somebody else gave her. So she was an editor also, and that really it provided much more insight to the writing process if you see how somebody edits something to make it better. The face-to-face classes that I've enjoyed, sometimes they were the big lectures because, as Rhonda described, if it's a good instructor, if it's an engaging person that has a personality, you can connect with that through stories or something else. And on the flip side, the bad part is if somebody is just a drone or has a very difficult to understand accent, something like that, then that's a little challenging.
Excellent job, excellent. I think I've had the similar experiences as both of you. I've had some amazing face-to-face classes where the professor would tell a story that really draws you in, almost like you're watching a movie or a TV show or reading a book, and it really makes you part of the whole overall experience. And I've had the same experience where you've had a professor that is really knowledgeable about the content, but has maybe an accent or maybe a language barrier, which may make it difficult for you to understand the content or to keep up with the content. Or sometimes you have a professor or faculty that is so knowledgeable but they cannot present it in the material in a way that's easy for you to understand. I've had that difficulty with both online and face-to-face. What I've liked about online has really been about how you really come through in one virtual room and you're able to discuss one specific concept or topic, but bring your own little take on that concept and topic. And I think that's really difficult to do with a face-to-face class, and I think that's where online education is really going to take education to the next level. There's nothing wrong with face-to-face. There is very great merit with face-to-face, but I think online is something that, as you can see later on in the presentation, I've had experience. It's just going to help people, in different ways. Excellent job, both of you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how faculty and administration feel about the online education progression. What I've read, faculty feels there isn't enough training. They don't feel as if they're prepared to really teach an online class with the technology involved. Now that may be dependent upon the age barrier or the expertise of the technology in general. They feel as if there's not enough technology to really make them feel a personal connection with their students, whereas a face-to-face, they have that personal connection. They also feel that if the cost doesn't justify the structure of the online classroom, whereas the administration feel that the costs are more cost-effective because they don't have to heat a room, clean a room, or keep a room in a specific manner at times, whereas an online classroom, they just have to have the computers and networking available for the students to come to, or parking. It's also, administration feels that it's a lot more user-friendly and for the students so that they can come to a virtual classroom at their convenience, whether it be a set time or they can do it, listen to it at a time that is more convenient for them. Also, it really helps, what I've read, is that it really cuts down the cost of textbooks. Textbooks are absolutely out of control price-wise. Administrators just really feel that this will cut down the cost for students, which will allow them to take more classes because the textbooks aren't as expensive. But what I've learned is that both faculty and the administration both feel that plagiarism is going to be a little bit more rampant with online classes and a little bit harder to detect, simply because there are more students that will take an online class, and it'll be harder to keep track of where the information comes from and how it's utilized. So what do you guys think? Do you guys feel that faculty and administration are worried more about the change in innovating classrooms or with an online approach, or do you feel that the costs are okay with the online classrooms? With a green check, and if you want to hop on the mic and give us a little feedback on what you think.
Chris, I'm not... Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, we hit it at the same time. I don't know really about what the costs are, how much this Blackboard Collaborate system is costing Wright State, but I imagine that administration is a little worried about the business plan. How do they market their courses, and does it relieve them, or does it remove the identity of the place of the institution itself? In other words, everybody comes together in a classroom, and that's what a university is. But I don't really know what the costs are, but from what I've heard or gleaned, that's sort of the impression that I've got.
Okay, Yolanda?
And, I think universities are worried about current costs, just the upkeep of the campus, all the other associated costs. I think online teaching will help reduce that to some extent, but I think in other ways there are going to be some increases in costs with technology, maybe with the online resources through the library. So I think there's going to be some give and take there. But I think there's also going to be more challenge to do the online approach, simply because of previous thoughts and ways of doing that create change for faculty and administrators. So you have to be willing to embrace change. And I know that sounds strange, but you have to embrace it to make things better. At least that's what I've always been taught in healthcare. So we've been taught that change is inevitable and you have to go with it. But I think that as they begin to see changes, as faculty become comfortable with the online approach and become more experts at using technology, that they are going to see some changes and outcomes that are going to be better for their campus. And then going back to what Jim said about campuses losing their identity, I can see that. But I also see a lot of universities, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but they mainly do online teaching, and they're known for their online courses. So I think even like Wright State can become known as an expert of providing e-learning simply through faculty, the courses that you hear, while still maintaining your campus, because you still have to have labs, you still have to have skills assessments, you still have to have a way for students who are learning how to teach to come back to the classroom and practice. So I think we won't really lose that. We just may be tightening up. And like at Wright State right now, you see so much growth happening. And I know, Chris, you don't live in the area, but it's expanding. I mean, it's taking over, which is great. I like it. It's beautiful. But I wonder, what's going to happen in the future as we do go towards the online or the e-learning.
Excellent job. I have to agree with both of you. I think that, it kind of leads into what I was going to go to next, how blended learning is going to affect online and face-to-face classrooms. I think what you just said, I have a friend that lives down in the Dayton area, and I visit him often, and we always drive by the Wright State area, and it is absolutely booming and exploding with new buildings and new facilities and new everything. And I think that, this is only going to get better with Wright State just simply because of the whole blended learning aspect. Blended learning is kind of, if you guys haven't learned before, it's like a fusing of the strengths of both face-to-face classroom and what an online classroom does. The key is it meets the face-to-face and online learning. It focuses on individuals to be able to collaborate and approach the reflective activities that include the instructor. So, and it also gives the students the ability and the freedom to do the online at their convenience, and the instructor allows them to instruct what they want to do at a online lecture, and then they can bring this back into the classroom to discuss it with the students, either have activities with the students. So it really allows the students to get the best of both worlds. They can, learn the lecture at their convenience, almost as if, kind of like back in my day when I was a student in undergrad, I was able to tape record the professor and be able to, re-listen to the lecture to be able to pick up on information I missed. This online blended learning allows you to do that and still see maybe some of the attributes of the classroom that the professor is doing, or without the tape recorder, and it allows you to do it at your own convenience as well. Tape recording era, yes, I remember it too. You would get it, and all of a sudden the tape would go bad, and you're like, "Oh no, I missed it! Or I forgot to hit record, or someone bumped it, or whatever." So, in your polling option here, please respond. What do you think best answers the question of these three presence that we learned last time: social, cognitive, and teaching presence? Which one do you feel most benefits from the blended classroom? Up there on the polling option, just hit the letter you'd like. D? Why do you guys think D? Is there a specific category that you think one outweighs the other, or do you think they all come together?
I think they all come together because you have the online, which, you're getting the teaching presence and the cognitive presence depending on how the course has been developed. But by having the blended classroom, you're actually then being able to meet and connect more so with your classmates in the building that learning community presence by doing the blended or the hybrid type of learning.
Really good. James?
Yeah, if I can jump in. I gave some thought to this when I was putting mine together, and I thought that I could see online contributing to social presence, definitely, because people would tend to, you can create a group that interacts and knows something about each other, and through online there's some evidence that there's a little less resistance to exposing your opinions. That is less maybe challenging in a face-to-face situation. Cognitive presence, I think it provides an opportunity to provide complicated content that you wouldn't have an opportunity to do in a 50-minute classroom period. And teaching presence, I think that comes in when we have a group like this, and there's a facilitator of the discussion that can direct the conversation, receive input, and sort of move the class in the direction that move the education in the direction that you want to have it progress.
Excellent. I have to agree with you on a lot of those. I think the social presence specifically is a great tool for people that are shy in the classroom. I look at it from a student standpoint, and I see students that never raise their hand. This gives them an opportunity to contribute to the classroom. And cognitive presence, I really see that, if you have a really deep question, how many times are you in a face-to-face class and you're like, I can't think of it, it's on the tip of my tongue. Well, if you're in a virtual classroom, you may have thought of it like when you're driving home from the store or driving home from class. Oh, doggone it, I totally forgot I now know what I wanted to say. And the teaching presence, I think it allows the students to really give them a chance to really blend together and become a teacher themselves versus just being a student in the classroom. And I have to agree with both of what you said. I really think that, the blended learning is the future of not just college education, as you can see on my next slide. I think it really blends together all education. I think it's going to really start taking, in the public school setting. I teach 5th grade math right now, and I've used online education, not to the degree of a college or university. I use it for my students. If they miss a day of school, I have a Google Classroom. They can get on and they can watch my lecture even though they're at home. So even though they don't get to be physically in the classroom, they can see what happened in the classroom. So when they're coming back to the classroom the next day, they can go, I didn't understand this, Mr. McClellan. Can you explain this to me in a different way? Or they can send me a message on the Google Classroom forum and say, I don't understand this. Can you explain it a little differently? And I could discuss it on the blog or a forum right there with them. So I think it's going to happen not only in the college level. I think it's going to happen in all forms of education. And I use this on a daily practice with my students. And it allows them to, if they have questions or concerns, they can message me directly just like a virtual classroom that we do right now at a college level. So I think that students now at the public school level are able to see that this is going to happen not only in their immediate future right here, but they're going to see that it's going to be make them very available to see it on a day-to-day basis. Yes, Yolanda?
So how do the students then, how do you make sure students have computers at home to be able to do the online learning or to go to Google to view your taped lesson?
What I do usually is I have my students, they have the opportunity, if they have a tablet, a smartphone, or if they have a public library, they can go down there with headsets. A lot of libraries have headsets that you can check out, and they can listen to the classroom setting right there on the spot. Or if their parents have a Google phone or a tablet, they can get on that as well. If they're unable to do that, then that's okay. I can still get them caught up on the next day of classroom. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. If they don't have that technology, it's still okay. I can still give them the information the next day at school that they're back. Or if I'm teaching the class, I can have them get on a computer in the side of the classroom. Here's what you missed, while I'm still keeping my other class students engaged with teaching what's going on that same day. So either way, I could have the student caught up either on a classroom computer or the home computer or on any kind of electronic device. So it's really been beneficial for me because it's so hard to juggle 20, 30 kids plus teach the kids that missed class the day before or a couple of days before to get them caught up. I can stick them on the computer to listen to previous lectures and allow them to ask questions when they need to. As we get more and more involved in technology in the classroom, we must continue to focus on the blended education format. I think that this is going to be the next form of education, as you have seen. I think that as we get further and further into our careers as faculty or classroom teachers, I think it's going to allow our students to get a sense of technology, how to use technology in the classroom, as well as at their own pace. Do you guys have any questions? No? Okay. If my virtual learners, if you have any questions, and make sure to message me, and if you could, make sure you answer the questions and put them in the Dropbox by Tuesday at midnight. If not, I will talk to you guys soon, and thank you so much for coming. Take care. Thank you.